Hello, good people of the internet. We are back doing another Gwent release notes after having done 11.8 before. This is now 11.9. I am still a noob, so my opinions or thoughts don't really hold much ground. However, it may be interesting to you to see what a noob thinks. And hopefully, I don't know, you're probably not going to get too many exciting revelations from this. Anyway, let's just start because I think there's a lot of changes. I'm going to go through the new cards as well as the patch notes, and where possible to look at the changes on the cards because I probably don't know them. These ones are the new ones. Let's start with the new ones. So monsters, in fact, each faction gets 2 new cards. Lara Doran, an elf wild hunt, is disloyal. Damages itself by the total duration of frost on the enemy rows. And when it dies, will boost all enemy units by 2. When your opponent plays a gold wild hunt unit while Lara Doran is in your graveyard, they also replay Lara Doran from your graveyard and give her doomed. So there's various things here that I don't really understand. Disloyal puts it on, allows you to play it onto the opponent's side. Fine. So I assume when it's talking about the enemy rows, it's still it's your cards, you're putting it onto your enemy side, but you're still talking about the frost that you have applied to your enemy. But when it's dying, it's also saying enemy, but by that point it's on the enemy side because it's disloyal, that it is going to be boosting all of my units. You know, if I am the one with it in my deck, I play it onto their side, but it's then boosting my units. And also goes on to mention, because it will then end up in your opponent's graveyard. So when it says this about your opponent plays all the stuff, and it's in your graveyard, then that is talking about it being in your own graveyard. Sorry, in your opponent's graveyard, but then like I would get to play it again. It sounds very interesting, but I'm a bit confused. I would need to see how it works. I guess it goes very well with frost decks because it's about duration of frost, although that is about the damage. But all the wild hunt cards are kind of frosty, was my understanding. So again, put it in with all your wild hunt cards, get a load of boosts out of the enemy, and then you get to replay it on your own side. Maybe. Or maybe you just get to play it again because it's doomed. It's kind of like this is the unit version of Echo. So it still ends up on the opponent's side. Anyway, good for a frost deck. The other one for monsters, Verena, is a vampire. Give an enemy unit bleeding 4. And bleeding units cannot be boosted. So the first part, pretty boring. Give an enemy unit bleeding. Lots of things in vampires do that. It's the second bit which is the really interesting bit. Because something that's bleeding, like if you boost it by 4 and it's then bleeding by 4, well, over 4 turns, it's just going to be back to where it is. So yes, I think there's a lot of benefit there because vampire decks can make pretty much everything bleed. So then the opponent will not be able to boost anything. And that can be very dangerous for an opponent, such that you'd want to or need to remove Verena. So lots of dangerous things there. The one thing that I'm not sure about is there's the Skellige card. So it's not Svalbard, Sigvald, maybe. And maybe I should be opening up a window to look at Sigvald, see if it works. Would Sigvald be affected by this? Because he bleeds and then boosts himself. I don't know. There's probably something in there that stops that from happening. Otherwise, that card's kind of useless against this one. Or maybe that's just the risk you take and you have to get rid of this one. Anyway, let's move on to Syndicate. I'm not very good at Syndicate things, so these are maybe going to go over my head. Madame Marquise Serenity. Profit 4, deploying on melee, will summon a Slice of Ductress from your deck to this road, and I don't know what one of those is. Deploying on range will summon Passiflora Peaches from your deck to this row. And if you tribute, so if you pay up front, then you get to summon both. One of your opponent plays a card, you gain a coin. So you can get 2 good cards, maybe. Yes, I was going to go look at these cards to see exactly which cards they are. So Passiflora is this card. Horde, at the end of your turn, boost self by 1. Okay, so if you have 4 coins, boost yourself. I mean, it's only a 4 provision, but it's still pretty good, right? And what was the other one? A Sly Seductress, I think. One of these ones. Gain a shield whenever your opponent plays a unit. Boost self by 1. Yeah, I mean, they're engine cards. They're things you probably need to get rid of. They're quite powerful. So, like the card itself. Need to zoom in again. You know, 5 points plus 2 engines for 13 provision. Well, minus a few coins, but it seems quite powerful. A lot of provisions too, so you're going to have to create a deck built around this. But anyway, moving on, Novigrad, which is a location, has resilience, has profit 3. At the end of your turn, gain 1 coin. So again, lots of coins going to be created. And there's an order on there to create and play a bronze gang unit, which, so maybe it goes well with the syndicate gang stuff. I don't know, the gaining a coin is maybe one of the more important things from the location, because syndicate is based around coins. Let's move on to Scoia'tael. This is a dwarf, Eudora Breckenriggs. At the start of the match, infuse a random Zoltan in your deck. With when this card appears on the battlefield, spawn Eudora Breckenriggs to the right of self and boost her by 1 for each Zoltan in your starting deck, then banish self. So infuse a random Zoltan in your deck with all that stuff. So you need Zoltans. And it's based on the number of and then it spawns the same card. Right, because this card banishes itself at the start of the match, but it's going to spawn this card to the right of self and boost. So I think there's only like 2 Zoltan cards, isn't there? Maybe. Boost her by 1 for each Zoltan in your starting deck. You know, if I look for Zoltan, there's Zoltan Shivy, the Warrior, or Scoundrel as well. Okay. I mean, Zoltan's company probably doesn't count. So what, like 3, and then it's 5 points? 5 points extra from a random Zoltan? Am I missing something? When this card appears in the battlefield? Don't know. I'm probably missing something. Mahakam Pass is also related to dwarves. Create a bronze Scoia'tael dwarf and give it 4 armor. And the order is to spawn and play Tempering. Those are both things that a Scoia'tael dwarf deck would really like. For 10 provision, maybe it's worth it. I mean, 2 cards is effectively what you're getting for 10 provision. And also the carryover from one round to the next with resilience in the order, if you wanted it. You're not choosing the dwarf, and you know, that dwarf could be 4 to 6 provision. The tempering itself is, I don't know how much tempering is worth, 4 to 6 provision, so you know. But it gives you 2 things for the price of 1 big thing, so it's kind of thinning. Anyway, let's move on. Onto Northern Realms. Princess Ada, who's a human aristocrat and cursed. Deploy, but only with devotion gains immunity. So without devotion, and devotion being all non-neutral, well, all the same faction, I guess. The first time a cursed unit enters the battlefield, each turn boosts off by its base power. And that could be huge, because the base power of cursed units is going to be, 7, well, not 7, 3, 4, 5. And if you're just playing cursed units all the time, very big. As well, there's a, because I've been playing with knights, there's the cursed knight. So if we, let me just look at cursed, this thing, transform, should reduce the size. Anyway, we'll just right click it. Yes, transform an allied unit that is not a cursed knight into a cursed knight. So presumably this would be entering, because it's, or does transforming count as entering? I mean, kind of. Without changing its power. So, if that's the case and you use the cursed knight spam, maybe that's really good for this. I don't know what else is cursed. So, but it's kind of that Northern Realms cursed. There's a sergeant as well, right? That's cursed. So you probably want to run it in a devotion deck to avoid this getting killed, because it probably can go up to 30 plus points very easily. Someone's probably out there saying try 50 plus, I don't know. Radovid Judgment, who also has a devotion. Once all leader charges are used up, summon self from your deck to your melee row. Once all leader charges are used up. So the other Radovid gives you more leader charges, so I guess you'd want to use them together. Use them all up. You get this guy out for free. It's self-thinning. It's only 6 points, but the point is that you leave it in your deck and you use up your leader charge, and at some point he just comes out and you get 6 points for free when you didn't have to, didn't have to pull those points out. So it's useful. I don't know if, I'm not the kind of person who has played those various things, but I can understand other people who want some thinning going for this card if they have, a devotion deck. I don't know which deck's a devotion really, and one which are using up leader charges at the sensible time is the thing to do. If you're doing it round one, well, who's using up the leader charges round one? I don't know. You'd have to think about that as well. Let's move on to Nilfgaard. Rosa and Edna var Atra. So these are two sisters, I think. Deploy, create a bronze unit from your opponent's faction, then spawn it on the opposite row and give it spying. And that's a very Nilfgaard thing. To, create things from your opponent's faction. Order damage an enemy unit by 0, increase by 1 for each aristocrat in your starting deck. And there are quite a few aristocrats, so if you have an aristocrat deck, then this is probably re-enabling the aristocrat deck. Deathblow, spawn and play a base copy of the destroyed unit. Which one is destroyed? Maybe they mean from the order. So, damage an enemy unit. Don't know. But it's giving your opponent a unit. So this isn't giving it to you. But it gives you then the ability to damage something, and then you can play, if you've killed it, because it's a destroyed unit, then you can then play that on your side. So there's probably some very good things that you could kill on your opponent's side that you could then spawn and play, but you have to damage something on your enemy, on the enemy side. Moving on to Henry var Atra. Deploy. If your opponent has not passed and their hand is not full, create a legendary unit from your faction that was not in your starting deck. Add it to your opponent's hand. Move the rest to the bottom of your opponent's deck. Then create a legendary unit from your opponent's faction that was not in their starting deck and add it to your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck. So you're creating a legendary for your opponent, but a legendary from your faction based on your deck, or things that are not in your deck, in their hand, and also giving them 2 other cards from that create, and doing the opposite for you, so giving you one of your opponent's faction's cards and putting the others in your deck, which again could be very interesting. I don't know exactly how you would want to use it, but you'd probably try giving a rubbish legendary. I mean, they're all going to end up in their deck anyway. And for people who are not Nilfgaards, the Nilfgaard special legendaries don't really help too much. Whereas if you're playing the sort of Nilfgaard deck which loves playing things not from your faction that assimilate, then it could be very dangerous in an assimilate deck. Sure. Onto Skellige. Hoylen. Boost all allied humans by 1. Is Skellige filled with humans? Start the game with 5 random Skellige bronze humans in your graveyard. When it says boost all allied humans by 1, that doesn't say controlled. So is that in hand, in deck, in graveyard? That can't be right. Boost is probably linked to on the battlefield. No, boost isn't linked to the battlefield because you can hand boost. It does say all. If it really is, that's concerning because, you know, throughout your deck, if you have 15 humans, this card is playing for like 22 points. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up. Playing with lots of things in the graveyard to start with. Well, they like to pull things back out the graveyard, so maybe this goes well with Lippy, maybe this goes well with something like Tyr, where you can pull out a nice unit from there. Gives you a lot more options for that. And then the last new card, Otkel, also a human warrior. Damage self down to 1. Then play all copies of Freya's Blessing from your graveyard. Give them doomed at the start of the game. Increase aim base power for each alchemy in your starting deck. Freya's Blessing, is that the one which allows you to bring things back from the graveyard? Play a bronze non-neutral unit from your graveyard and give it doomed. So yeah, it's giving you more of these things. And that's also alchemy, so you're going to be playing with 2 of those, and this boosts based on alchemy. So yes, they all go very well together. I assume there's other Skellige cards which are good with alchemy things. I mean, alchemy cards that are good for playing with this. And maybe this goes well with this because lots of Freya's Blessings allows you to pull things out the graveyard, which is what this is going to be doing. Or it's going to have extra humans in there to do that with. Yes, as I say, I'm not really an expert in lots of these things, so I don't know how you'd use them. Some of them sound interesting. My general take on these is that the Skellige ones look very useful for Skellige. The Nilfgaard one looks very interesting for the 2 Nilfgaard things. I'm very disappointed. Well, not very. I'm a bit disappointed by the Northern Realms ones. Okay, the Curse one's a bit interesting. It brings back Cursed maybe back into usage for Northern Realms. This is a bit boring compared to the others. The Dwarf ones for Scoia'tael are just Dwarf ones. Having got an Elf deck and not played with a Dwarf deck, then they don't really sing to me, but I suppose they maybe make dwarves a bit more competitive, and I think dwarves are not played too much in the upper ranks. Syndicate, I don't know, they look really powerful. No one's probably twiggled on how to use them yet, but the fact that you're getting lots of coins from both of them, okay, they're high provision, this is giving you lots of 2 engines and 5 points, all for the cost of, like, well, you get 4 coins, but you just need to pay back those 4 plus another 4. So yeah, these look really powerful, and when someone works out how to play them, I think these provisions maybe get changed. Who knows? And the I don't know, I'm not really a vampire player, so even though this is really interesting, this ability, it doesn't really affect me. And this one, again, I think it's intriguing, but I'm not really a Frost player, so I don't see it affecting me, well, apart from being playing against it. But yeah, I think there are some more interesting ones in there than, you know, some of the other ones which are less interesting. Like, this is just a location which doesn't really do much. Anyway, so on to the patch notes. And what have we got? Changes neutral. So I may have to flick backwards and forwards because I don't know what Ale of the Ancestors did before. So if I do this and search for Ale, which is, you know, the big picture, if I click on it, no, right click on it. Oh no, maybe they've already changed that. Boost unit by 3 and infuse it with 38. Okay, cooldown 2. What does it mean that? Maybe they've just broken the library. Boost self by 2. Oh, when you targeted by Mahakmal or Golden Froth, boost self by 2. So I guess maybe people weren't using these things and they thought, hey, we will like all 3 of these cards and we can just make them use it by using Mahakmal. You know, well, changing this card to boost things by an extra amount when they use this. Because a boost of 3 for how many provision are we talking? 12 provision? 12? Really? Is that changed as well? If it's 12 provision, no one's using that, right? It's boosting something by 3. Oh, it's cooldown of 2. So it's doing it quite often. Has resilience as well. So it's going to stick around. Okay. Everyone will be using it. Or not, I don't know. If you need boosts and you want to be boosted by an average of 1.5 every turn, plus however many Mahakam Ales you have in your deck, you have both of these. Yeah, that could be quite a lot. Let's just check the next one. Colossal Ifrit. So I wonder if I've missed the boat in terms of, because if they've updated the library. Colossal. Can I spell colossal? Right, 1-0. Damage 3 units on the opposite row by 0, increases value by 1 for each construct you played. Which is the same as what they've got here. Okay, so I don't know what it was before, but maybe I need to look at it for the provision costs. So provision cost of 10. It relates to other constructs. I don't know how many other constructs there are. I think they were like mostly these weak cards, like I've seen this one recently. Or that one's boost self by 0, increase this by 1 for each construct. Maybe they've changed all the constructs. Yeah, looks like they've changed all the constructs. So, like, where's the other ones? Yeah, Primordial Dow. So yeah, the constructs are all now changed, which means people might actually start playing them. Maybe people make a construct deck. Seem to be along the lines of boosting self, but increasing it by the amount of for each construct you played this game. Which I guess is similar to the Ogroids, where the things were boosted by the number of Ogroids in the deck. but this one is more relating to the... Well, this is also damage an enemy. Damage an enemy. And the, well, damage 3 units with cooldown. So yeah, the value goes up based on number of constructs you play. I don't know if they're really high provision costs that you'd actually do this though. I mean, they give relatively high power, but there isn't the like, there's not a huge engine from these things. It's like a single boost. So for example, well, it has shield, fine. It maybe is going to boost itself by like 4, because I can see 4 constructs here, unless there's more. So, you know, let's say an average of 2, so it's going to be 11 provision for 9 with a shield. Yeah, it's okay. Maybe. It's not the best. Anyway, let's move on. Cyprian Wiley, power limit of the target changed from 3 to 4. Presumably, I mean, that's not a huge change, so that's just wasn't being used, so let's move on. This is one of the constructs. Eskil Pathfinder. Power change from 7 to 4, provision cost change from 9 to 10, ability change to destroy an enemy unit with a primary category that's not in your starting deck. So a primary category that's not in your starting deck means that you would have to have a deck with not many primary categories. So like an elf deck is probably one where you've not got too many. Or a dwarf deck, or I don't know, mage deck, or, you know, knight deck or something. But then they all have other things like human or whatever else. So, or like bandit or soldier. Although those won't be primary categories. I don't know how many primary categories there are. Also, I mean, just on the face of it, ignoring the fact, it's to destroy an enemy unit, and it has a provision cost of 10. So, you know, and compare it to Heatwave, worse than Heatwave. If you want multiple control things, then yeah, it's probably good. But also, there are things in other decks which maybe like specific to factions, which can you know, remove units for less than this. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Another construct. Geralt Ard, power change from 3 to 4, provision cost change from 10 to 9. Which, I think I saw this yesterday. I was like, why would anyone use this? Did I get this card? Did I have the choice? Oh, it is that one. So it's deploy a melee, damage 3 enemy units by 2, then move them to the range row. So it's 6 damage with movement, but it's moving all 3. And do they have to be on the melee row? Because it says we have to be on the melee row. Like, we have to put this card on the melee row. Maybe just, if they're already on the melee row, they just stay there. Anyway, 6 damage, 4 points is itself is 10. So you're getting 10 value max, plus moving things is maybe good. Not if you're playing a movement Scoia'tael deck. But you're maybe moving them away from a defender, but then you can't have targeted them if there's a defender there. So you're mostly moving it for their, you know, if they have an ability on the melee row, but not on the range row, that you've pushed them back. I don't know. It's 6 damage and 4 is... I mean, they've made it better, for sure. I don't know if anyone is actually going to use it from now on. Gregoire de Gorgon. Deathblow boost change from 5 to 8. Not a huge change. But again, maybe it'll be used now. Ivor of Belhaven. Power change from 5 to 1. Ability change to boost self by 0. Increase this value for each card you've played this round. So this is, I mean, how many provision is this guy? Because again, you're going to be playing, well, in a normal round, you might play 3 cards, you might play 7, you might play 10. If you're doing things like waylay spam, you're going to be doing a lot more of playing the cards, right? So he is 9 provision. But if you play a lot of cards as well and he's in your hand and then your opponent passes, what happens then? On the next round, it resets because it's played this round. So could be very interesting for my waylay spam deck. But then it's, you know, on average, it's going to be like 7 provision, probably. How many cards are you playing around on average? 7. Maybe if you're a really, you know, card-heavy person with playing like an Oneiromancy into an Amphibious Assault into John Natalis, playing into, I don't know, a Warfare card. That's 4 cards you've played there for 1 turn. So, but still, I don't know, 9 provision for like a 9-point card. You'd need the right deck for it. Marlene de Trastamara. Ability change to doomed. If not doomed, gain resilience. Okay, so you have to purify her. And then she'll stick around. But how many points is she? 6 points for 6 provision. So plus Sapella. So it's 2 cards with 10 provision. And you're going to get 12 points from that. Is that worth it? I don't know. To me, it doesn't sound really worth it. Having to use 2 cards to get 12 points. Unless you just happen to have lots of Purify things in your deck anyway. Let's move on. Nivellan. Power change from 5 to 8. Provision cost from 6 to 8. Ability changed. Move all units on an enemy row to the other row. There's maybe something that's targeting. Like, you know, if a particular deck loves to spam things and has to be on a particular row to do it, in which case it's great, although it's still kind of maybe expensive to do that. But it could nullify your opponent's engine, maybe. What happens if the other row is full? Like, or if there's 6 on the front, 4 on the back, you know, where are 3 of the units going to move to the back and 1 of them is going to stay there? Or does it just die? That's a question that's unanswered. That's another construct. Regis Bloodlust. Now, I read this before, and this is like a crazy interesting card, maybe. Power change from 4 to 20. If you lose the round while it's on the battlefield, you banish your deck. So if it's on the battlefield, you need to win the round. If it's in your hand or deck, then it just goes away. And if it's in your hand as well and it banishes itself, then that is, you lose the card advantage. Like, well, not card advantage, you just lose a card. So if you both are on 7 cards and you didn't play it, then you end up being on 6 cards because you effectively lose that card. If you lost the round. But I suppose if you're going to lose the round, you might as well play it. Unless you're going to lose by more than 20 points, in which case you can't play it and you have to just lose the card. So it's, you know, doubly bad. And if it's in your graveyard, so you've already played it, you've already won a round with it, then you banish the top 3 cards from your deck. So again, even if you've won a round with it, you still have something negative. But how many provision cost is it? Regis Bloodlust. 10 provision. For 20 points, I guess it's good. But there's so much risk involved with it. Why would you do, you know, if you're doing vampire things, I suppose it's more provision cost. Damage all units on enemy row by 1. There's a lot of Regises. They're all good. They're all expensive though. Anyway, very interesting card. I don't know. I don't know how long it will be used for. Like, people I think maybe use it and then they'll realize that there's maybe too much risk associated with it. Don't know. Tainted Ale. Ability change to Zeal Order damage a unit by 2 and infuse it with whenever this unit receives a boost, damage self by 1. So it receives a boost, it then damages itself. That's kind of annoying. So it's like, well, you'd have to play against something which would be boosted. Not everything's getting boosted everywhere, but... Or if you have an engine which boosts itself by 1, it's just never going to boost itself. You need to... So this is more useful on smaller engines rather than the bigger engines. I mean, still useful on a bigger engine because it stops them double boosting, but... How many provision is a Tainted Ale? 9 provision. I mean, it comes with 3 charges. But still. So it's 6 damage plus whatever damage from whatever boosting they do. So I guess that's better than some of the other things that we've seen today. The Last Wish, provision cost change from 8 to 6. Make it cheaper, make people use it. Armorer's Workshop, ability now includes, so this is additional to what it has. If you have Armorer's Workshop in your graveyard, boost 3 adjacent units by 3 and give them 3 armor instead. So can you have 2 of those, the workshop? Yeah, they're bronze cards. So it makes it a lot stronger, because it's not just boosting it by... Oh no, it's quite... So it's by 3 and give them 3 armor, so it gives them an extra boost. Okay, so it's making this a bit stronger. And it's good for armor decks. So is that dwarves again? Put this on a dwarf deck. And into a Skellige, whatever armor Skellige thing is. Maybe. Inspirational Ballad. Ability change to give Vitality 6 to a random allied dwarf, human, and vampire. And, so it's going to do them all. Wait, what was it called? Ballad. 5 provision. Vitality 6 is also quite a big amount of vitality. But I suppose if it's all of them, it can't be all of them, can it? Maybe it is. Because it's vitality, it's not a boost. If it was a boost of 6, that would be too much for 5 provision. But so yeah, it must be vitality for 4 things. But you need to put those 4 cards out to get the full benefit. And by the time you play this, you're looking at a 10 card round. Or 10 turn round, should I say. So maybe that's too long. Like, you're probably never going to get all the benefit from this card. But still, 5 points, you're probably going to, if you put 2 of those down first and then have 4 turns times 2, that's 8 points for 5 provision. It's not bad for a boost card. And also, that might play nicely with some other vitality stuff. So maybe there's a Scoia'tael Vitality based deck, which could have a dwarf, a human, and a witcher in it, which would do very nicely from that. I think there's probably a nice deck out there. I don't know what it is, but there's probably one out there. Oxenfoot Scholar. Power change from 3 to 4. Ability change to boost self by 1 for each card with a provision cost of 11 or higher in your starting deck. But that's going to be what, like 3 or 4 cards? Apparently I can't spell. It's fine. 4 provision. Yes, I did see this card yesterday. Okay. But it's going to be 4 provision and like 8 power. I suppose for a 4 provision card, that's maybe okay. How many... I don't know what my decks look like now, but... Anyway, maybe it's okay. It's a bit random. I don't know if it provides real value. If you've got like 5, or if you've got like 7 cards of 11 plus, and all of the rest of them are 4 provision, then, you know, that's a good one to put in because it's 4 provision. Right, monsters changes. And what are we? 40 minutes in, so maybe we need to speed up a little bit. I don't know. Adder, Strigger, power change from 5 to 6, provision cost change from 79. Zeal, Order, Predator, consumer token if it was allied, double the boost from it. What is Predator? Do I know what Predator is? Strike. Fine, I'll put some more in. No. Oh, this thing. Of course I know what this is. Consumer token. Predator. Fine, I need to right click to find out what Predator is. This ability can only target units with power lower than own. Consumer token. Okay. So consumer token. It has to be a token as well. It can't just be any unit. I don't know how useful that's going to be then. Because how many tokens are going to have a decent enough points cost that you're going to be getting value from your 9-point card? Clearly, the people of Gwent will know better than me. I suppose it doubles the boost if it's allied. So if you have, well, I was going to say Scoia'tael, Elven Deadeye, but you're not. There's the Fruit of Yizgith. Does that have Thrive? So you can thrive up your Fruit of Yizgith, then consume it. So maybe it's really good for Thrive. If you get up to 5, then you've just got a 16-point 9 provision card there. Maybe, I don't know. Alpha Werewolf now has Curse. Power changed from 6 to 4. Okay, so no one was using it. And, sorry, power's gone down and provision's gone up. But it's got a new ability. Boost a beast in your hand by the number of cards in your hand. If you've got more than one beast, then that's very good because you can boost it. You would just play this first and you give it a boost of 10. It's quite good for an 8 provision card. Or you can play it on range and you boost all your beasts by 1. All allied beasts. Again, it says all. And is that all as in hand, on the battlefield, in deck? I assume all of the above, because it says the word all. In which case, maybe this is bringing back a beast deck. Although this is cursed. Maybe it's a cursed beast. Must be a beast, right? Morntart. Armor change from 4 to 0. Has no armor. Provision cost change from 7 to 10. So more expensive, but can banish all units in your graveyard. Then boost self by 1 for each. Okay, so that's quite powerful as well, if you were to play it last. By that point in the game, you would maybe have 10 units in the graveyard, so you're going to be getting quite a nice boost on your Morntart. It's maybe a bit expensive, though. In comparison to something like a Mamuna, which is just like consume... No, wait, what's a Mamuna? Replay something. I can't remember. Anyway, let's move on. Plague Maiden ability now includes order, destroy, rat, then poison enemy unit. Cooldown 1. What was it able to do before? Destroy a rat, then poison an enemy unit. Deathwish spawn 7 rats on this row. But it's already dead when it spawns those rats. So you'd have to destroy a different rat, not one. But I suppose it's bringing poison to monsters. I don't know if there's any poison in monsters, but... Don't know. Cockatrice, power change from 4 to 2, ability change to boost self by 2 for each adjacent beast. Predator also poison enemy unit. Okay, so that's the predator keyword again. And poison. And again for beast. So maybe they are trying to make beasts a bit more used. And werewolf, which I guess is a beast, is also cursed. There's a couple more cursed things. And again, there's the predator keyword, boost self by an enemy unit's power. But yeah, can only be used on something which is smaller than 4. So you can, this could be 4 power, or it could be 7 power. So no one's going to use this. Unless they're going for a beast deck, in which case maybe this is better. Right, the other change which I had seen, or at least it stood out to me, Nilfgaard, Vilgefortz. The ability has changed so that it only brings out the top bronze unit from the deck to a random enemy row. So it's not going to bring out your best cards, because I had it bring out my sim list and that was really annoying. At least once. You still don't get any benefit from it being played if it's got a deploy ability. And when it says top, I assume it means the one towards the top of the deck. So yeah, anyway, I think it's a really good change because it's been overpowered. It hasn't changed its provision cost. Maybe that can change later on, but it's now at least only tackling bronze cards, so it's not as melee as it was before. Diethman Arbalest, power change from 3 to 4. Whenever an enemy unit gains a status during your turn, damage it by 1. And I think this one is potentially really dangerous as well, because this goes in with the Nilfgaard status changes. There's already the Dame, which boosts itself when you gain a status, but this one is now damaging it. So if there's 2 Dames and 2 Arbalests, then it's like every time a status goes out, and that's multiple times per turn, that's 4 point swing. So fine, it's only 4 provision as well. So I think that's almost as bad as Onager, really. Because Onager was doing 1 damage for every order used, and okay, orders may be easier to use in that order spam deck in Northern Realms, but gaining statuses when you're status Nilfgaard is also very easy to do. So I think it's very quickly, this will be boosted up to 5 provision, as the Onager was. That's my opinion. Northern Realms, the Banard Tutor, getting better, getting more expensive, but gets a different ability whenever you play unique special card boost self by 2. It used to be related to the other Banard students, right? It's not going to tell me. The tutor. Yeah, but I don't know. The student as well. Don't know. Let's move on. Kedwani Sergeant, number of charges changed from 2 to 3. So again, that plays into the cursed stuff, I think. Reaver Scout changed from 5 to 6. Another change which even I've been saying is probably necessary. I mean, fine. Let's spell like this. This guy. Spawn and play a base copy of an allied bronze soldier. How it was ever less than 6 provision, I don't know. But I mean, this one copies itself, right? But this one's copying anything else. So yeah, you're effectively getting 2 cards for what was 5 provision. How does that make sense? Anyway, good change. Temerian Infantry, ability change to formation, order, boost an allied unit by 2 for each remaining charge your leader ability. At first I thought this would be good for my Northern Realms Knights, but that only technically has 1 charge. So this is stopping you from, well, not stopping you, but encouraging you not to use your leader charges, I guess. I don't know. Squirtle have not been heavily affected by this. There's just this one tiny change. If you control an artifact, spawn an Elven Deadeye in this row. I don't know. This is probably quite a low provision card, right? That's the Vanguard Brigade. This guy. 3, 4. So, yeah. If you control an artifact, which elves artifacts are there? Just the scenario. So, or maybe the location. So it could be 4 playing for 6, or it could be 4 playing, if you've boosted your Elven Deadeyes a few times, could be 4 playing for 9 points. So yeah, if you've done Angus Boosty, then this maybe is a good thing to have. It could go very well in my deck if I wanted to remove some of the more control things like Trickster or the Swordsmaster. But again, if you don't have an artifact, then it isn't useful. And I don't have that many. Anyway, moving on to Skellige, which, again, I don't really know too much about these things, so something has changed. Udalric. This guy. Power change from 4 to 8. Ability change to Berserk 7. Set an enemy's unit power to match own power. Which is almost like a reset, but still Berserk 7 is quite high. So, how many points is this guy? 6 points. And he pretty much, you know, can very easily get down to Berserk 7. So, you know, self damage down to like 2, or, you know, slowly damage it down to 2, and then you'll just get one of your units reset, almost reset, or worse than reset if they started low. It's quite powerful for 6 provision to be a certain number of points and a reset card in one. I don't know. Seems maybe cheap, so expect to see that being used. The Pirate Captain, a changed ability, Bloodthirst 2 gains 0, damage the unit by 1, charges 3. So just lots of damage, but only if there's Bloodthirst. There's, oh no, it gains 0. What was it before? Well, it's not going to tell me what it was before. Anyway, it's 4 provision, 3 points, so it does 3 damage. So, yeah. I don't know what it was before, but that seems relatively okay. The Disgrace Brawler, Bloodthirst requirement changed from 3 to 1, so it's going to be a lot easier to trigger that thing, whatever that is. And then Syndicate, maybe I'm just going to skip over Syndicate, except for, because I was going to say that these aren't the new ones. Those are Nilfgaard Sisters. Like, you know, provision cost changes. It was this one which I think looked interesting. I think, I don't know what it was before, but maybe it's something similar. But they're now being a bit more explicit. So damage an enemy unit by 0 at the end of your turn while in hand. Change this, or in deck. Change the value to a random number between 1 and 10. So just randomly. Oh, and the provision cost is now 6. So like, there are cards out there for 6 provision, you can do 6 damage. Monsters have Parasite, there's the Spear. So you kind of, if you're doing less than 6, then this is not really working out for you. But it can do a bit more. But on average, it's going to do 5.5. So it's, I don't know. You're just going to have to leave it in your hand, and the one turn you want to use it, if it's a 1, you're like, well, I can't use it. You can't leave it if it's on 10. Maybe you have to play it then. But still, interesting. Things which gain more coins are very dangerous and all that stuff. Game fixes. I didn't go into game fixes last time. Are any of these things worth talking about? Let's just read them and see if anything rings a bell. Certain leader abilities such as Pincer Maneuver and Invigorate no longer become deselected after using up 2 charges. The training versus AI mode no longer becomes stuck. Okay, that's just a bug fix. Verification now correctly target face down traps. Sure. Dagon Promised infusion is now cleared from units whose death wish ability takes them immediately back. Okay, that sounds like it's a bug, so they fixed the bug. King Demoven's 3 selected cards are now shown correctly in the preview screen. Again, more bugs. Corexus finally sounds the way he was intended to. That's vague, that I don't know what it's referring to, so fine. Temple of Melitele Congregation now shows its spawn cards in the preview screen. Oh, did it not show that before? I suppose maybe not. When I had played it, I was then looking in my deck to see what it had spawned, but I guess that's useful if you're playing on the other side of the temple to know what they have created from it. Opening game and tutorial no longer skips a pop-up message about the deck in the graveyard. Fine. Anyway, this has been now a very long video because there were a seriously large amount of changes. Maybe this was interesting to you. If it was, please leave a like. If you want to see more of my Gwent journey, then check out the other Gwent videos, streams, and whatever. There's at least some interesting gameplay, if only to laugh at my poor choices. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see more of that as well, because you'll get alerted about it, or you can ignore the alerts, but just, you know, come back and watch the videos. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching if you've made it this far, and yes, have a great day.